direct conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't late to me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome once again to Rec Conversations. My name is Josh Wasta, a.k.a. Fallout Fieri. And with me, you know, she likes it when you call her Big Mama. It's Leia Cameron.
Don't ever say that again.
I was going to say, does she? Does she really?
Does she, though? Do you have consent for that?
I'm here for you, Leia.
Okay.
That's wrong.
That's the only way that would be acceptable would be if I were currently involved in a performance of the musical Chicago and I was cast as Mama Morton. That's it.
True. Very true.
Leia, can't you see? And with us, our guest today, a regular of Graphically Novel, and usually bringer of treats, but we could not make actually getting together in person this weekend happen. But it is Mr. Loki Lott. Loki, welcome back to the program.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everybody. And hello, Josh's liver.
Yes, my liver's doing very well. It says hello.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I'll change that in the future.
Well, we'll see. Oh man, I can't drink nearly as much as I used to. I had a double Bombay and tonic the other night at the Eras Tour movie, and I was like, "Yep, I'm done. That's done." And I'm not sure if it was the sugar from the tonic or the actual gin. But getting old sucks, kids. Don't do it.
Don't do it. It's a trap.
That's right. And speaking of traps,
out of 5 stars.
And speaking of traps, we are also joined by my lovely wife,
the trap.
Wow.
the Baronessa, Miss Jennifer Howland. Jennifer, how are you doing today?
You're batting 1,000 today.
I know.
I am well. I am taking a break from yard work because, there's not snow on the ground, so I'm doing yard work.
Don't say that 4-letter word.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? We live in the Midwest. It's a given.
Yeah, I was about to say, Loki, you're in Wisconsin. Like, you must thrive in that or die. So
Yeah.
Well, I'm not dead yet, unlike your liver soon.
okay. Well, let's get off of that vendetta and on to today's episode, which is Secret Invasion. So this will be an interesting one because I'm sure eventually we'll do this for Graphically Novel too, because this was kind of by and large the most disappointing of the MCU TV show offerings. It did not stick the landing. It didn't stick the beginning. It didn't stick a lot of the middle.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I didn't even watch the last episode.
Oh man, you should, because it's gonna come up. Because it's it is. Maria Hill died for that.
Yep.
But we're gonna read the actual comic event that occurred just after Civil War, and boy, you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how today's episode is going to go for anybody who has not tuned into us before. I today am the presenting professor, Professor J. I will be taking Loki entirely through the Secret Invasion storyline, panel by panel, bit by bit. I'll leave some things kind of vague because we do want you all to read this eventually, but you're going to have the gist by the time we get done with this. At any time that Loki has a question, concern, smartass comment, he's going to pull the emergency brake on the whole show and be able to ask a question, make his comment, whatever. The response needs to come from the assisting professor, Professor L. If she doesn't know the answer or whatever, she will toss that then back to me to answer. If neither of us know, we are actually joined by the Baronessa today, and she hasn't done it for a few episodes because we've generally had answers to questions. So maybe we'll just ask a question directly to Jen at the end of the episode. But she will just make up whatever she wants, and it will then be canon. So
the power.
That's fair.
The power.
the power when you actually
Get
it. Yeah. Like the vice president breaking a tie.
Wow, way to
I will
just
try to make the
completely
question.
take the
I
wind
will
out of
come to
my
you.
sails there.
You're the Kamala Harris of the show.
Wow. Groundbreaking and nobody cares.
Yeah. All right. So, any questions before we begin? Secret Invasion.
So this is just about a secret invasion, right? So
Yes.
I think I understand.
Awesome.
So
End
done.
end of show.
Yeah, done.
I'm gonna go home. Our work
Back
here
to
is
yard work for you.
my planet needs me. Okay, so we begin in a shield bar, picking up directly after the events of Civil War, because in the shield bar on the TV is the news showing that Captain America is dead. An angry agent blames the world going to hell on Nick Fury, and basically says he abandoned them. And another agent warns him to cool it since Dum Dum Dugan is in the bar. Dum Dum stands up, obviously heard the guy, throws his beer bottle into the mirror behind the bar, smashing it, and then leaves. He goes to...
Quick question.
Yep.
Which multiverse Earth is this taking place in?
I believe this is. I think this is just regular continuity.
Yeah, all of this is 616.
Yeah, so it's just 616 tomfoolery.
Yep. So yes,
yeah.
somehow Dum Dum Dugan is still alive, despite
I was
having
about that too. Yeah,
fought in World War II.
that didn't escape me when I saw this opening sequence, and I was like, well, I don't really have it. If he asks, I'm not going to have a good answer. So that's the answer. Is I don't have a good answer for that.
Who's
Yeah.
Dum Dum Dugan?
Oh, Dum Dum Dugan is one of the original Howling Commandos. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
that was Leia. But
No, that's okay because you don't want to get me started on the Howling Commandos because we're gonna be here for a while.
yeah, well, we're also going to hit critical mass because we're going to meet the new commandos in this.
Yes. But yes, he's one of the original Howling Commandos, which is one of Cap's boys, one of Steve's boys from W2. And
He's the guy.
guys-
Sorry.
Yes.
Captain America's guys from in the movie that his platoon.
Yes. Yep. The guy with the bowler hat and the mustache, that was Dum Dum Dugan then, and it's Dum Dum Dugan here. We don't know why he's the same age.
That's
So
fair.
many years later, but hey, whatever. Comic
Well,
books, man.
Leia, that sounds like neither you or I know the answer to that. So, Jen, why is Dum Dum Dugan looking this way? Rather robust and healthy for someone who fought in World War II, and this is in 2008.
He's a time traveler.
I mean, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. That is canon. He has time traveled to be here. So anyway, he leaves the bar
Out of spite.
out of spite. That's much easier than a flux capacitor. I've got lots of spite. I have very little plutonium.
1.21
Same, dude.
gigaflops.
Same.
1.21 gigawatts of spite. Really easy to come by.
Gigafuck.
Gigafucks. 1.21 gigafucks.
That's a lot of spite, Marty. That's a lot of spite.
I suppose where you come from, you could just walk into the nearest store and pick up gigafucks of spite. Okay, we'll go this riff all night. But he goes to his boat, where he basically goes to kind of break down and cry, but he can't do that because he's interrupted. He's interrupted by the Countess Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who is apparently a good friend of his. And she was in Madripoor and asks if it's true that Cap is dead. And he says, yeah, it is. And she's asking, like, do you know where Fury is? And Dum Dum says he doesn't. So she grows Wolverine claws and sticks them through him, then takes his form, saying, that's a shame, but he loves you.
Okay, hold up. Who's this new person? And how did Cap die?
So Cap died because
Time bullets.
Sharon Carter. I don't want to talk about it. Episode on Civil War.
See the end of Civil War. Yeah.
So yeah, Sharon Carter shot him. That's a whole episode in and of itself. Sorry, what was Allegra, Contessa Allegra Valentina, blah blah blah. She is kind of I don't really know how to describe her well. She's kind of like a female Nick Fury, but she is kind of aligned more with the bad guys at times.
Yeah. I started to look a little bit into her when she started showing up in the MCU. So she's the person that Elaine from Friends plays.
Yes.
But in order to explain her comic books wise, you have to understand the whole underground society of Madripoor, which is like crime country in the Marvel universe, which they got a little bit into in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an entire country of sketchiness, and to be involved with it means you're sketchy.
Okay, where did she come up with Wolverine claws? I mean, did she get some of his DNA and?
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Somehow Skrulls are now able to mimic superhero abilities.
Oh, she's a Skrull.
Yes. She is a Skrull. She like stabs him and then takes his form. Like she turns into Dum Dum, looking at his own form and says, he loves you. Don't worry. He loves you.
I'm literally coming in blind. I did not read anything.
Excellent. You are meant to be confused at this point.
Yes.
Okay. Mission accomplished.
Excellent. We get a flashback of years and years ago, where the Skrulls came up with a plan after their throne world was destroyed. This throws back to, I think, a 70s comic, which was the first Kree-Skrull War. In a Stark lab, Tony meets with Reed Richards and Hank Pym and shows him the corpse of a Skrull who has been posing as Elektra. Stark says they are undetectable to his technology, and she can't be the only one floating around. Meanwhile, in the orbiting headquarters of SWORD, which is called the Peak, Skrull Dugan is visiting the station when the station picks up a single Skrull vessel that's about to crash land on Earth in the Savage Land. SWORD calls Maria Hill, who then calls Tony Stark. Stark is still discussing with Reed and Pym, saying the Skrulls are also undetectable to mutant powers and magic identification. When Maria Hill comes through and basically tells Tony, hey, there's this ship crashing, we need you to go take care of it. He leaves and calls Spider-Woman, who is the only member of what I am going to call the legal Avengers. And the reason that I'm calling them that is this is right after Civil War. So we're going to have a lot of Avengers, and a lot of them are going to be still on different sides of the Civil War, because there are the new Avengers, which are fugitives. They refuse to join the registration, or registered and then ran away like Spider-Man. And then we have Tony Stark's
kind of.
The registry? The registry was if you have superpowers, you basically are government property and need to sign on with the government.
Yeah.
Or register and never use your powers again.
Right. Yeah, this is another thing that came out of Civil War as well.
Right. The other thing you need to know about Civil War is that as part of the conditions for this, if you were a supervillain and you signed up, you were absolved of all crimes, which is a super great idea.
Yeah.
Super great, you guys. So he calls Spider-Woman and asks her to assemble the legal Avengers. She gets off the line with him and immediately calls Luke Cage, who is the leader of the new Avengers. So the new Avengers at this point are Luke Cage, Wolverine, Echo, Iron Fist, Ronin, and Spider-Man.
Important side note at this time, Ronan is Hawkeye.
Yes, Ronin is Hawkeye.
Okay. And Iron Fist is your favorite, right, Josh?
What? Iron Fist?
Iron Fist is your favorite, right, Josh?
Danny Rand? The immortal Iron Fist?
Yeah.
The defender of Kunlun?
Yeah. Your favorite.
You know, I don't mind him as much in the comic books. I could not stand him in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. They made him a bitch version of Bruce Wayne in the show. So yeah. Oh, it's also important to note that the entire time that Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, is receiving these calls and making these calls, Jarvis is just standing right there. Because Jarvis, snitches get stitches, and Jarvis doesn't have a scratch on him.
Okay, isn't Jarvis Tony Stark?
Butler. Yeah, no. Jarvis is a human being that is Tony Stark's butler. He's his Alfred.
Yeah.
In the comics, he's an actual dude.
Okay.
Yeah, in the MCU, they changed it.
That makes sense then.
Yeah, in the MCU, they changed it that Jarvis, the AI, was designed by Tony Stark to mirror Jarvis, who was his dad's butler.
Okay.
Did you follow that, kids? This is explained much more in the MCU in the underrated show Agent Carter.
Yes, deeply underrated. Let's not get me started on that. Anyways, moving on.
Luke Cage calls in a favor and has Cloak drop them at Stark's Quinjet, where they very quickly punk Nat out like a bitch.
They do want to girl dirty yet again.
Yeah, and Steel basically Luke's like, okay, so if Tony just found out about this, his Quinjet is being prepped. Cloak, can you drop us at the Quinjet? Only Black Widow's here? Great. Knock her out and steal his Quinjet. Because the New Avengers have no money. So this is the kind of shit they do. I do highly recommend the New Avengers run from this era, because it is a lot of fun. Plus, you get a lot of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and their daughter Danielle, which is always good. So they steal the Quinjet, and they start going to the Savage Land. Some of you may be asking,
what
is the Savage Land?
Yeah.
Professor Al?
It is a hidden world in the Antarctic that is full of dinosaurs. It's basically like, what if we took the conceit of like Land of the Lost and just popped it in like Antarctica?
Yes. There are superheroes that live here. They're called Khazar. And I can't remember. Shizar? She's something.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There's a female version. Basically, they are the Tarzan and female equivalent of Tarzan of the Marvel universe. What's that? Tarzette. Hello, you fool. No, that's Roxette. And so, anyway, they go to the Savage Land, and while they're discussing what the Savage Land is, a dinosaur crashes their jet by basically biting it and then throwing it to the ground.
Oops.
Yeah. They go... Sorry?
Nope, go ahead.
They go into the jungle and find the crashed Skrull ship, which is sealed tight. Then the legal Avengers show up, which are Iron Man, Ms. Marvel. This is pre-Captain Marvel, so this is still Carol Danvers as Ms. Marvel, because their Captain Marvel is recently died and named Marvel.
Yeah.
He died of cancer. Sentry and Wonder Man. They face off. Luke basically is like, I've had enough of this, and goes to open the ship, and it triggers something within all of like the Skrull nations, like gives off a sign of its time. Skrull Dum Dum Dugan says he loves you before the peak explodes, so the spaceship explodes. Jarvis uploads a virus into Stark's systems and also says he loves you. This virus takes out Tony's armor and uploads the virus to everything that Stark technology touches. So Stark Industries, S.H.I.E.L.D., the Raft, the Cube. Yeah. The last two... Sorry, go ahead.
The Cube is the prison. What's the one right before that you said?
The Raft. They're both prisons.
Yeah.
One is in the ocean. The other, I don't remember where the cube is.
I think it's in the negative zone, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the one in the negative zone. And at the cube, this releases somebody that I am not familiar with, which is Marvel Boy.
Oh, Novar. Yes, you know exactly who that is.
Novar? I do?
Novar. He's a Young Avenger.
Oh, he's the fuckboy in Young Avengers. Okay.
Sure is.
Okay. This is before he got better, I suppose, because he is.
Yeah, they weren't. To be fair, they were not calling him Marvel Boy in Young Avengers. They were only calling him Novar.
Yeah, I would have, if I was in the Young Avengers, I would have never stopped calling him Marvel Boy. But I mean, he's banging Kate throughout that whole thing. So
yes.
At Thunderbolts Mountain, my favorite incarnation of the Thunderbolts is in a meeting when they are attacked by Captain Marvel, the dude one, the one that supposedly died of cancer. At the Baxter Building, a Skrull is on a tour and ducks out of the tour, like a Skrull, like as somebody human is on the tour and like ducks out and suddenly like changes into Sue Storm, goes into the elevator and has access to the top floor, which is where the Fantastic Four live. She walks past Sue's kids and Johnny, who's like, "Hey sis, what's going on?" Blah, 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 blah. Walks right to the negative zone portal, says he loves you, and turns it on. So basically opens a portal to the negative zone in the top floors of the building, to which a blue ball of light obliterates the top half of the Baxter Building.
Like, it sort of looks like it implodes a little. Like, it's crazy.
So what's the negative zone?
It's another dimension where they put like particularly bad superhero criminals.
Kind of like the Phantom Zone in Superman?
Similar, yeah.
Yeah, a lot like that. It's where Fantastic Four does all their bullshit, and I'm not a Fantastic Four person. Meanwhile, in the Savage Land, the ship opens up, and heroes come pouring out, some of whom are also standing there. So these are all, by the way, like 1970s classic versions of these superheroes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look at this panel, and I'm just going to say who I identify is walking out of this ship, because it's a lot. Emma Frost, the White Queen, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, Thor, Beast, Wonder Man, Sue Storm, Phoenix, Iron Man, Vision, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Jewel, so like Jessica Jones's retconned superhero persona, Mockingbird, Captain America, Wolverine, and Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, you did it all.
Woo!
Exactly.
And they are facing people like Wonder Man and Ms. Marvel and Spider-Man and Wolverine. Everybody basically does the... Go ahead.
You said Captain America was dead before, right?
Yes, Captain America is dead during this, and Captain America just walked off of this ship.
All right.
In space, Abigail Brand and the Sword members are floating in protective pods, but only have 10 minutes of oxygen left. She's calling for help when an armada of Skrull ships show up.
Oops.
Reed figures out how the Skrulls adapted, and starts to explain it to Pym when Pym just goes, "Oh, I know," and shoots him with a gun that makes him a goop web.
Yeah.
And then says, "He even loves you." And that is the end of issue 1.
Yeah.
I should say, go ahead.
Is Hank Pym, who is the Ant-Man?
Yes.
Yeah, the original Ant-Man.
Yeah, I believe he's now going by Yellow Jacket at this time. But yes, is a Skrull. At the ship, all the heroes face off. Through the arguments, Ares keeps going, we need to leave. It's trap. Hey, you guys, anybody that can fly, just leave. It's trap. No one listens to him and they all get in a big fight. Sentry grabs Vision and tries to talk to him, but Vision basically looks right at him and is like, you did all this. This is you. You created this world. You birthed this into existence. You know, everything is coming together like you planned, and freaks out Sentry to the point that he just runs away.
Yeah, he does. I love Sentry as a character because he's such a fucking mood.
Yeah. All this fighting draws the attention of a T-Rex who starts fighting everyone. Ms. Marvel takes Tony away since his suit is compromised, and he kind of directs her to a Savage Land lab where he can hopefully figure out a solution. Luke Cage and Wolverine meet up in random part of the jungle and see the Spider-Man from the ship was mauled by a T-Rex and is a Skrull. They find Skrull Hawkeye is dead with Mockingbird mourning over him. They start to attack while she protests, saying that they knew there were a few Skrulls on the ship, but she's not a Skrull. Ronan prevents Wolverine from and Luke from hurting her, and he goes up to her and says, Bobby, if it's you, you confirm what happened on October 12th. And she's like, oh my God, you know, and they talk about how she had a miscarriage and the baby's birthday would have been October 12th.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oof. Oh.
So basically at that point, Clint is like, okay, nobody else could have known that. Like, so what's going on? They choose to believe her, and she says there's no way to know who from the ship is Skrull or real except Cap, who got them back to Earth. So she's basically like, Captain America's the only one that I know is actually not a Skrull. Back in Manhattan...
How did she know that? Or did they explain that later?
Basically, she says because he's the one that got them back to Earth.
Yeah, that's the explanation given.
Yes. Back in Manhattan, the negative zone energy ball is getting bigger, and the Skrulls armada descend on New York and just start killing indiscriminately. That is the end of issue 2. Issue 3. The helicarrier has crashed into the Bermuda Triangle.
As you
Because
do.
that's a normal
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
What is it, Tuesday?
Yeah. Maria Hill and her agents go to the flight deck where they're met by Jarvis, who asks for their unconditional surrender.
That's right, the butler.
The butler did it!
Right.
Surrender to me.
I knew I should have read the back of the book first.
At Thunderbolt Mountain, Captain Marvel has them all dead to rights, but can't seem to kill any of them. And so Norman Osborn is like, oh, you can't kill him, huh? Well, I guess we should talk. So sit down, have a drink. So
Norman Osborn, Green Goblin?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. He's in charge of the Thunderbolts. Because remember, if you have superpowers and you join the Initiative, all of your crimes are forgiven and you get a job.
As a side note, too, he's drawn like Christopher Walken, which is just chef's
No notes.
Fair enough.
I guess he is kind of. Yeah, you're right. I want to talk to you.
This
Sit
is
down.
around the time that a lot of the you find a lot of the superhero art in comic books starting to resemble whoever they've been cast as in the films. Like it's not all the time, but it definitely happens quite a bit.
So not Walken, Defoe.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, William Dafoe.
Like Christopher Walken's a very, very different Norman Osborn.
William Dafoe. Oh my God!
I would
not
love to see
Walken.
it.
Well, Dylan's speech, though, would take forever.
Peter, something of a scientist to myself.
Dance break.
Dance break.
Oh,
Check out my new weapon. Weapon of choice.
Oh my God!
It's a pumpkin bomb, by the way, is his weapon of choice.
this was your father's weapon.
This is your...
I
So,
took this pumpkin.
okay. So for this next part, I need to explain something that has come out of Civil War, and that is, you can only imagine how many young people signed up, like, that had powers in this new initiative, especially like their parents made them sign or whatever. So there is an entire camp training the newly registered heroes, and part of the initiative is they're trained at this camp, and they are basically assigned a state. So there are Avengers for every state in this. So there are Iowa Avengers. They're not very good, but there are Iowa Avengers.
It's like the boys.
Captain Corn.
Exactly like the boys. So Yellow Jacket shows up to the camp and basically says Manhattan's being attacked. We don't know who the aliens are, and the Avengers are nowhere to be found. So all hands on deck, and basically sends all of these children to Manhattan to go fight the Skrulls. The Young Avengers are already there and doing what they can. There is a huge fight in New York. Back in the Savage Land, Echo finds Jessica Drew and says, "Hey, I'm not a Skrull. I just want to talk," to which Jessica Drew goes, "Oh, I know," and snaps her neck.
So
Yep.
Jessica Echo is from the Eternal.
No,
Related
she is Daredevil adjacent.
Yeah.
She is Native American superhero who is deaf.
Did you see the Hawkeye MCU show?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
Echo.
right. So,
Yeah.
okay. Isn't there an Echo in Eternals also, though?
No, nobody
think
was
so.
in Eternals.
Eternals
And-
never happened.
And
The
that
Eternals
never
were
came out.
a figment of
Yeah.
your imagination.
Yeah. There was a little bit of fanfic about Salma Hayek one time doing something with Angelina Jolie, but it didn't actually happen. And
That's fair.
so Tony's working on his armor when Jessica Drew walks in. So Spider-Woman walks in. She kisses him and says, "Your queen is very grateful," and basically starts to tell him he's a sleeper Skrull. And he has done all of this, like everything in Civil War and everything else was part of his programming. Back in Times Square, the heroes are all kind of fighting and trying to, take back against the Skrulls. The Skrulls are winning. Vision is obliterated, shot through the face, and his head shatters everywhere. And then an unnamed member of the initiative is killed. Like, they didn't even name this hero, and she dies. And then Nick Fury and a new team of Howling Commandos show up. This team is Slingshot, who's also known as Yo-Yo Rodriguez, Quake, who is Daisy Johnson, Phobos, who is Alexander Aaron, Hellfire, who is JT James, Stonewall, who is Jerry Sledge, and Druid, who is Sebastian Druid. Two of those names may be familiar if you ever watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I have not.
Okay.
I told
They
you
are-
I'm not prepared for this.
No, that's okay.
That's the point.
Although I would recommend you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's very good. It's far and in a way better than a lot of the stuff coming out of the MCU now. TV wise anyway. Especially Secret Invasion. Although Loki season 2 has been really good so far.
Excellent.
And that
It's
is
been fantastic.
yeah, and the end of that is the end of issue 3 is Fury showing up with all these superheroes. Issue 4 begins with
What
Reed.
weapon-
Sorry?
What weapon are they using to just kill these superheroes so quickly?
It's not really specified. They're some kind of like blazer looking things. They're using hand-to-hand combat. Kind of whatever works.
Yeah, Vision is obliterated with like a purple beam. And then the unnamed person, like a Skrull, grabs their chin and seems to like stick kind of a weapon just made of the same kind of purple light
Yeah,
into her, which lights her eyes up purple.
but it's not.
It's pretty brutal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Reed is conscious and is kind of stretched out by this machine to keep him. I guess this is their version of locking Reed up because he's, able to work his way through a keyhole. So they're like, oh, we'll just stretch him and lock each of his parts down.
Yeah. He sort of
Like a
looks like he's
taffy
been
puller?
turned into a weird blanket.
Yes, like a taffy puller, but in every direction.
Sort of like the face of Bo.
Yes, if you watched
Okay.
Doctor Who.
Torchwood.
Yes, in Torchwood.
Yeah.
So Reed is kind of speaking over and basically bringing us up to speed on what's going on. He's working on the problem, and kind of talking about how things are going and what the big picture looks like. But it's like never. I mean, it's never really important. It's just kind of bringing people up to speed. If for some reason you only picked up the 4th issue. The Queen, as Spider-Woman, continues to tell Stark that he's a Skrull, while Nat starts to sneak up on the area, where she's approached by Classic Beast and Phoenix, who are like, hey, what's going on? And she just shoots them both, kills them, and they're revealed to be Skrulls. She then saves Tony, and they have a discussion about how to know if you're not a Skrull, which pretty much you can't. Wolverine shows up, and Nat puts a clip of bullets in him and then asks for the password. The password, by the way, is carrot sticks. And Tony says they need Reed Richards.
Way to do it with Wolverine, though.
It's true. Well, and that's kind of what she said. She's like, heal yourself and let's go. This is a much better Nat than the one that got punked earlier.
Yes.
Back in space, Brand is floating around still with not much oxygen left, to where she can get on the side of a Skrull ship and, is able to hack her way in through a keyboard or something.
Yeah. It's not really clearly outlined.
Yeah.
Hack the planet.
Hack the planet! Once inside, she starts to, basically go through their computers and figure stuff out, and she is caught by 2 Skrulls. On the helicarrier, Jarvis asks again for humanity's surrender. Hill is like, I don't know if you understand this, but you're outnumbered. And as she's saying that, all of her agents turn into Skrulls.
Oh my God.
Because we can't have an event without Maria Hill getting totally punked out somehow.
Yep.
Back in Brooklyn, the Hood, who is a supervillain that has, at the end of Civil War, wisely kind of become the new Kingpin by putting all the villains in New York together, says to get everyone together because a Skrull invasion is bad for business. There's no place to take over if the Earth is gone. Back in Manhattan, the Skrulls are suddenly hit by lightning bolts, and it appears that Thor has returned while Captain America watches from a nearby rooftop. And that is the end of issue 4. Issue 5. We begin at Thunderbolts Mountain, where Osborn has kind of worked everything out and has figured out what's going on, and he's starting to talk to Marvel, the Skrull, and basically says, you were a sleeper agent and then you were activated, but you were sent to be Marvel. You had his memories, you thought you were a hero, and then you woke up and realized you were a Skrull, and Marvel's like, yeah, you're right. And basically Osborn's like, I'm sorry. And Marvel flies away.
I'm something of a sleeper agent myself.
In a secret location, all the heroes Fury's team, by the way, when they showed up, basically were like, okay, they saved who they could and then zapped away.
Yeah.
So they're in a secret location, and all the heroes Fury's team rescued watch as the Skrulls broadcast as every talking head. It's actually a super cool scene, because, you see, Tom Cruise and Magneto and Obama and Colbert and Oprah, but they're all on every news channel basically saying, we're not here to hurt you. And in fact, I'll go through. We're not here to hurt you. We've traveled across the universe to save you from yourselves. You have so much potential, but you're on the brink of complete disaster. You're at constant war and living in disease you cannot cure. Some of you gleefully wallow in excess while your brother next to you starves. And in doing so, you are destroying your ecosystem beyond repair. What most disturbs us is that you are fully aware of your situation and actions, and though you've evolved to a place to do something about it, you do nothing. We wish no harm or bloodshed, but we will do what must be done to save you. You will conform, you will assimilate to our ways because they work and because you have no choice. And you will do this because it is the only thing that will save you and your planet. The Empire has everything you could ever dream of and things you haven't even been able to imagine. All of this we offer to you. The Earth is now part of the Skrull Empire. Your days of poverty, hardship, and disease and greed are over. He loves you so much. I mean, they're not wrong.
Yeah, I was like, man, like for this being written in 2008, none of this has changed very much. That's that's sad.
Yeah, it sure is.
If you take, on a side note, if you take Martin King's speeches and kind of replace Vietnam with whatever current conflict is going on now, speech applies today. You know, the poverty, you know, just everything like that.
It's true.
Yeah.
Very, very true. And scary. Brand apparently speaks Skrull. So the two Skrulls that captured her, she basically is like, I am part of the Queen's delegation. They're like, oh, sorry. Ooh. She's like, how dare you point your weapon at me? I outrank you. And the guy's like, oh, I'm really sorry. She grabs the weapon and just indiscriminately kills everyone on the ship. Like every Skrull. She's just like, blah, 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 blah. She happens to be on the ship that has Reed captured, stretched out like taffy. So she lets him go. First she opens all the airlocks on the Skrull ship, basically throwing hundreds of Skrulls into the vacuum of space. Abigail Brand, by the way, has not been done properly in the MCU. She's a fucking badass. I love her. But she frees Reed, who immediately is like, where are my children, Skrull? And chokes her out. Then realizes that she didn't, like, go back to Skrull form when he choked her out, and so takes her with him when he basically takes over the ship and starts flying back to Earth. Back on the SHIELD helicarrier. Okay, I'm going to read what I have in my notes, because I want you to actually go and read this, because this scene is a fucking delight. And it makes up for all the punking that Maria Hill always gets over all of these events. So what I have is Maria Hill has an amazing scene that should not be ruined. But I will say the punchline is a t-shirt that reads, Nick Fury was right. She kills Jarvis and all the other Skrulls and blows up the helicarrier, escaping in a jetpack.
A jetpack.
Yeah, flying away from the Bermuda Triangle. Oh god, and the actual dialogue in the scene is phenomenal.
It is.
And I will not ruin it for anyone. Meanwhile, back on the ship. Yes. Meanwhile, back on the ship, Reed confirms that Brand isn't a Skrull, so lets her, free on the ship. And they watch Skrull Captain Marvel attack the Skrull battalion. So basically what's happened is, due to talking to Norman Osborn, Skrull Marvel has gotten so angry that he's decided to flip sides. Goes up into space and just starts obliterating Skrull ships.
Oh my god.
Reed says that they need to go to New York. He needs to check on his children. And Brand says they need to get a couple of people first. Everyone's arguing in the Savage Land. When the sword ship kind of comes down, Reed pops out of a hatch and shoots everyone with a gizmo that reveals who's a Skrull and who's not. Mockingbird, by the way, is a Skrull. And while she's like, "Oh no, Clint," he shoots her in the face. The Skrulls don't seem to realize they're Skrulls. Like they're still putting on the act, not realizing that their Skrullness is showing. But they're not like being violent. The heroes, however, are being very violent. And Clint vows to kill every last one of them in an over-the-top dramatic scene that Clint is not usually given.
No. God bless.
Every fucking last one of them!
No.
And that is the end of issue 5. Issue 6. So Captain Marvel, Skrull Captain Marvel, kind of crashes in a parking lot where Marvel Boy happens to be. And Novar, like, obviously knows who Marvel is. And he's like, "Are you him? Like, I thought you were dead." And the Skrull Marvel basically tells him that the Skrulls are invading and they've taken the Earth. You can't let it happen. Basically, you're a soldier of the Kree. It's your duty to go and fight them. And then he dies and turns into a Skrull.
Mm-hmm.
I just have the note of page 134 because, I gotta read this whole... Another transmission basically comes from the Skrulls to every TV and radio and whatever on Earth. It says, "As you now know, your global communication systems are fully restored. We apologize for the inconvenience. This is a time of unheralded transition for your world as it becomes part of the Skrull Empire. For those of you who are understandably confused and panicked, let me explain it to you very clearly. Your lives will go on as they were. You get to keep your homes, your culture, your family, your jobs. We are not taking things away from you. We are only adding things. You'll notice that the Skrull Empire has made no offensive move toward your armies or your governments. We've only defended ourselves when necessary, and we request that all armed forces ignore whatever orders you have received from your superior officers and stand down. Believe me when I say there is nothing created on this planet that can harm us or our weaponry. You are overpowered. Please spare your lives. We have only outright attacked your organized groups like the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and S.H.I.E.L.D. because they have defiantly stood in the way of your progress as a society. They're part of your problems. We wish all hostilities to cease. We are here to end your wars, not find new ones. So this is what you will do now. Love your family and live your life and wait for what is to come. The glory of a new future. Once we have settled in, we will begin replacing your energy sources and borders. All areas of modern conflict will be moot. Those of you who would rise up against us are in fact rising up against you and your future. Accept change, embrace change, let it wash over you. Let it make you all that you ever dreamed you could be. Do not fight a fight you cannot win. Do not fight a fight against yourself. Embrace change. He loves you so very much. Skrulls, Pym and Jessica Drew meet up and discuss their victory. They reveal that there's still a last resort if it's needed, and that is the Wasp. But they don't say anything else.
The Wasp? Is that Pym's daughter or his wife?
His wife.
Yeah, in the comics, it's always Janet. It's always his wife.
Yeah.
Okay, I've only seen the movies, but I kind of know a couple things about the comics, but not a lot, so I'm just verifying there.
Yep.
Yeah.
In New York, a group of alien worshippers go to surrender themselves to the Skrulls and seem to get attacked. Or at least, they power up in front of them. I'm not exactly sure. Because they show up a little bit later and defend the Skrulls, so I'm not sure what's going on in this panel. The Skrull Avengers and the maybe real Avengers face off. All the technology that allowed the Skrull invasion to happen is revealed to have come from Reed when they captured him. And he, quote unquote, he is revealed to be God. So whenever they say he loves you, they're basically saying God loves you. So this is a religious war.
I was going to say, it sounded very culty.
Yes. To which Fury says, "My God has a hammer," and they start to fight.
Oh my.
And that is the end of issue 6. Issue 7. Both sides kind of name their main targets. The humans call out the Queen and basically say, take out the Skrull Queen, the Empress, who is still Jessica Drew. And Skrulls basically call their shot and say, kill Stark. The fight goes on, and Spider-Man comments that it can't be that bad because Uatu the Watcher hasn't shown up. And then Uatu the Watcher shows up.
I was going to say, as we know, when the Watcher shows up, shit is about to get super real.
Right.
Okay. Who's the Watcher?
He is exactly what he sounds like on the tin. He is a space voyeur.
It's true.
And basically, the conceit of the Watchers is they observe important events throughout the universe and I believe multiverse, if I remember correctly. And they basically come to observe more closely when some really bad shit is going down. So, like, if you're fighting with somebody and all of a sudden a Watcher shows up, this is a major event. This is a critical moment in your universe or world or planets or whatever's critical moment in their history. It is not good when a Watcher shows up. It is never good when a Watcher shows up.
Right.
Okay, that was my other question. Sorry.
For more on this than you would ever want to know, see our episode on Original Sin.
Yes.
It involves eyeballs and yeah.
Mm-hmm. He looks like a giant baby, just kind of looming over universe, except with a weird popped collar. Like, so a very fashionable, like in the 10s sort of guy.
He's a preppy baby.
So back in Avengers Tower, Jessica Jones is with her and Luke Cage's son or daughter Danielle, who is a baby, and basically tells, or they're also with what is assumed to be the real Jarvis, since the Skrull Jarvis was blown up on the helicarrier. Jessica basically says, "I need to go and join this fight. Can you take care of Danielle?" And Jarvis is like, "Absolutely." So she leaves to go join. Marvel Boy arrives. Sorry, Novar, we'll call him now, even though Marvel Boy is great. Arrives at the fight, basically showing up as Captain Marvel would, and says, "In the name of Captain Marvel, this fight is over." Nobody really pays attention because then there's a big fight. The Earth is winning when the last resort is triggered. And we find out that before everything started, Hank gave Janet an anniversary present, which was a new version of her growth formula. So not only could she shrink down to wasp size, she could get really big, like Giant Man size. She starts growing exponentially as this is triggered against her will. And as Jarvis watches on from Avengers Tower holding Danielle, he turns into a Skrull, basically being like, see, Danielle, this is why they're not going to win. And that is the end of issue 7. Most of that was fighting.
Yeah.
So issue 8 begins with Janet expanding and releasing some sort of biological weapon that will basically, well, now it's starting to cause a lot of the heroes to vomit. So the thought is that it will just, it's a bioweapon. It'll take them all out. Thor spins a vortex with his hammer that contains, like, basically her body and everything until she completely vaporizes. So the Wasp, she dead. The Queen is exposed and vulnerable at this time, and a bunch of the heroes get ready to go and do basically the offense to take her out. When, with all of them there, it's a single bullet fired by Norman Osborn that kills the Skrull Queen. Like, shoots her through the head with a news helicopter capturing the whole thing. So this will be important later because Norman Osborn as far as the news is concerned, is like the hero of this battle.
Oh my god.
Then the wrap up kind of happens here. Once the queen is defeated, Tony is able to override the tech, finds the ship that's keeping all the real heroes prisoner, so anyone who died except Janet isn't really dead. Jessica sees Jarvis is on that ship, and flies away immediately back to Avengers Tower to find that Skrull, Jarvis, and Danielle are gone. Reed and Sue rush home to find Johnny Thing and the kids there. They apparently had an adventure in the Negative Zone, which you can read in Fantastic Four Secret Invasion. Tony is like, Thor, I'm so glad you're here. I thought you were dead. And Thor tells Tony he came because he was needed, but he abhors what Tony has become. And flies off. And Cap watches this entire exchange and just walks away. The president, at this point, talks about how they trusted Stark with S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Initiative and everything, and he failed them. So they're going to package S.H.I.E.L.D., the Initiative, everything else that the United States government kind of has a stake in, and rename it. They rename it to Hammer and put Norman Osborn in charge of it since he's the hero. Norman Osborn.
Great idea.
Yeah. Norman Osborn goes to his new home, which is Avengers Tower, and goes to the basement where he basically says there's a new world order and this is how it's going to be. And it's revealed he's talking to Namor, Emma Frost, Doom, Loki, and the Hood. And that is where Secret Invasion ends.
That was much better than the TV show.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
There's a lot more who's actually a Skrull intrigue, and they totally missed that in the show.
Yeah,
Well,
that's really that and the fact that they couldn't use a great deal of the characters that show up here for various reasons.
Right.
Well, but then they don't explain in the comic how the Skrulls are able to use like the mutant ability.
Yeah. No, they
Right.
don't. They never
It
do.
is never explained.
Basically, Reed goes, "Oh, I figured it out. And then he gets like gooed."
Yeah, and I guess like the boring version is like aliens.
Yeah.
Like that's the boring explanation. It's like they're aliens, so sure.
I would have seen the Maria Hill scene
Yes.
that you were
Well,
describing the comic book.
yes. The Maria Hill scene is in the comic. I guess the question is, Loki, how did we do explaining this one?
Very, very good. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Other than asking like who people are and not reading Civil War before, seeing or knowing anything about Civil War before this, I mean, because I would have the questions about that since I didn't see that.
On the bright side, you could just listen to our 2-part episode on Civil War.
Yes, it's much more entertaining.
Tune in next time when we will be doing Age of Apocalypse, X-Men Extreme. But until then, take it away, Vandello.
A little wreck conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration alienating me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Vandello 2021.